I'm Delton Cox. I'm a tribal councilman, 4th District, Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma Tribal Council. I served in the Marine Corps Reserve for 6 years, from 1962 to 68.
I'm Nate Cox. I'm the Executive Director for Choctaw Global Staffing for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. I have been in the military, both reserve and some active duty experience for the last 26 and a half years. My current rank is Lieutenant Colonel. What compelled me to enlist? Well, I had uncles. I had 3 uncles serve in the military. My father served in the military. My grandfather was a World War II veteran, Purple Heart, and was distinguished in his platoon and his unit. And I had always looked up to that type of thing. So it was something that was always on my mind. I was a freshman in college and decided that I'd like to be part of that group. And I enlisted in January of 1990. Dad drove me to the recruiter's office and dropped me off, and a few short days later I was at Fort Sill. Spent some time there, spent some time at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and came back and decided to go the officer route with the Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC, at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. We had thought about looking into Southeastern, but at the time Southeastern didn't have the ROTC program. So that was the next closest. And got my commission as an officer, a second lieutenant in May of 1994. And I also had the privilege of my grandfather, the World War II veteran. He got to present me with my coin, which is kind of the ceremonial act when you first get commissioned, is get saluted by an NCO. And I was lucky enough for him to be able to experience that with me.
I was going to school at Eastern State College at Wilburton, and no one in my family had ever gone to college before. I borrowed money to start, and I had no idea how I was going to go beyond that first year. A Marine recruiter came around, and those interested to take a test. I took a test. He said, "You're officer material." And I had been taking a course at Eastern at that time, at Land Grant College, taking ROTC, Air Force ROTC. So I went ahead and enlisted in the Marine Corps at that time. Well, actually, it was in the PLC program, the platoon leaders class. And for a way of trying to go on to school, because at that time, of course, we had the draft. I knew if I got through one semester or even a year, it'd be something that nobody else in my family had done before. And then I was going to have some other way to go to college. And that's primarily the reason I enlisted at that time. There was no war or anything going on at that time. And of course, my older brothers had been in the military, at least 3 of them. So I thought, well, why not? We'll try this way. That's how I got enlisted in '62. Joining the military has always been sort of expected. At some point in time, you have to give back something. And of course, it's time to join was at that time when I was 18 years old. And like I said, as far as the influence of being Choctaw to join, it was something it was pretty well expected of you to do, unless you were married, have children, or disabled. You're expected to give something. And so this is the way that I had of fulfilling what I thought was my military obligation. Choctaws have always stood up for this country. That's just, some people think of it as a way out, of course, and we were pretty poor anyway, didn't have anything to start with. And that's where my older brothers had joined. I had the two oldest one was World War II, and the second one was in Korean War. And something was just expected of us to do. And I didn't know any other way. You do what you're supposed to do.
Well, myself, I didn't realize it at the time, 26 and a half short years ago. But, a lot of the principles of being Choctaw or being part of the Choctaw Nation, a lot of it kind of resonates with the Army as well. The Army duty, honor, country, a lot of the principles in the military, not just the Army, all branches, kind of follow the same lines as faith, family, and culture, in my opinion. I've experienced recently a change of command with, my boss, who was a one-star general, and just being part of that ceremony. We opened it up with prayer. The next item would be we would honor our family, and then the third would be we would honor the Army. So if you think along those lines, it's pretty similar. So without knowing, again, those short years ago, I was kind of brought up that way. So it wasn't that hard of a fit for me to find what I like to do in the military. I definitely can talk about the changes it brought in my life. Of course, in the military, everybody first and foremost always thinks of discipline first, and it's true. It's true. But there was a lot of other things, just little things, and I didn't notice them at the time. But you go through your basic training, you go through your advanced training, and all the training the military provides somebody. It does change them a little bit, and in my mind, for the better. It kind of reinforces those values, again, that I spoke of a while ago with Choctaw Nation, faith, family, culture, the principles that are similar between the two. It wasn't that big of a change for me. To be quite honest, but it does. The military did make me sit back and reflect more, I guess you could say, because when I was young, everything was fast and you had to get to where you needed to be quick. If anything, it taught me some patience. Of course, patience, control, and the ability to reflect on lessons learned. No matter what you do in life, it really did help in that sense.
One of the things you learn pretty fast is that there's always someone who can fight better than you, who can do something better than you can. It taught me a little humility. But of course, a Marine is like the Marine Corps says, you're always a Marine, regardless. And I feel that, I guess you call it a brotherhood, because you take a certain amount, but you always, you got somebody else's back, somebody else got your back. And that's one of the things that I'm always appreciated. Most of the time, my experience has been in the military. Normally, you have a lot of different minorities, if we want to use that term, or black people, or Mexican folks. A lot of them join the military. There's a number of Asians, Native Americans, and poor whites. That makes up the bulk of a lot of our people in the military at this time. At that point in my life, anyway, I find it's still true today. Those are the folks that help fight the wars for this country. We have exceptions, of course, to that, but generally that's what helps make the military what it is. I was in the reserve, but because there was no unit close by, I only went to the Marine Corps in the summer months. And I worked construction, and various other things, whatever I could find to work at. After I got back, from the Marine Corps, but I was going to school. I was saving my money to go to school. The whole idea was try and get an education, and that's what I was attempting to do, was finish as fast as I could. So I finished. I was 21 years old when I graduated from college here at Southeastern. Started teaching school. Main thing is get through, and as fast as you could, because there was no money coming in other than what little you got when you're working part time. Going to, of course, going to the Marine Corps during the summer months. Usually it's 30 days in summer months for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was.
I've been fortunate enough where I've actually traveled, I think last time I tried to count was about 10 different countries outside the United States. Having a particular job scope within the military that I had, I was fortunate enough, whether it was 2 weeks, 2 months, or 6 months. Some of the places was Korea, Honduras, El Salvador, Germany, Bosnia, Switzerland, Austria, Belgium, France, Netherlands, quite a few places, and that was because of the military. But it's been a great experience. And I know right now, at 26 and a half, I'm probably coming down to the end of the line here pretty soon, and I think I'm really grateful for what I've been able to experience with the military. But when you travel to these other places, it kind of gives you a different perspective. Maybe whether it's with the way the U.S. is perceived overseas, whether it's your own personal opinion, whether it's somebody else's opinion, but you get a lot more information and data to analyze. And if you can find within yourself to be humble, find that humility and look at it, it kind of helps you understand. I wouldn't say understand the world altogether, but it does give you a bigger perspective. And I've really been grateful for that. I'm not sure. Like Dad said, that's a good question, because it's been part of my life for quite a while now. For well over half my life, I've been in the military. But I do think in certain times, and a lot of the times that may be driving in a vehicle on the way back from Fort Sill, Fort Hood, or somewhere like that, I do reflect on those type of maybe questions. And I don't know, it's almost scary to think about. Just the things we've talked about, the humility, the discipline, and that sort of thing. It has served me well. I'm tremendously grateful for it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And with the Choctaw Nation, I have the unique experience of not only being able to help soldiers in some capacity in the training of soldiers while in uniform, but also in my civilian job with the Choctaw Nation is manage a group that help our Army and Air Force military members every day through various medical programs, behavioral health programs, and that sort of thing. So when I do reflect on it, I don't necessarily reflect on where would I be without the military, but more so being grateful and giving thanks to what I do have and what the military has helped me with.